Good morning and welcome. This is a Bureau of Land Management public meeting focused on the Sonoran Desert National Monument Recreational Target Shooting Resource Management Plan Amendment. It is just past 11:30, so we're going to give folks a minute or two to get signed in and then we'll get started. Glad to have you with us. All right. Once again, welcome. And thank you all so much for joining us for this first of two public meetings focused on the Sonoran Desert National Monument Recreational Target Shooting Resource Management Plan Amendment, hosted by the Bureau of Land Management. I am Meg Perry with SWCA Environmental Consulting, and I'll be your facilitator for today's meeting. Just to give you an idea of what's coming up during the meeting today, we'll start out with an introduction from the Bureau of Land Management. I'll go over some housekeeping and introduce you to your Zoom controls here in this Zoom webinar. Then we'll turn to an informational presentation covering a planning overview, review of alternatives, information about public involvement, the NEPA and public participation components, and how to provide input. And then we'll turn to a question and answer session. As you probably saw when you signed in, this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be posted on the BLM YouTube channel following this meeting. So just to give you a little sense of where you are in this Zoom webinar environment, this isn't being recorded, as I mentioned. Microphones are muted and the chat feature is turned off. But do watch the chat because I'll be putting a few things there that might be useful to you, such as links or information about how to submit comments that you may want to copy and paste or click on for your future reference. And if you do have a question today, you can click on the Q&A button in Zoom and type in your question there so that the team can see your questions and respond during the Q&A session. You may also be seeing captions running at the bottom of your screen, and you have a CC button in your Zoom controls that allows you to turn those on and off according to your preference. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Wonderly, the Public Affairs Specialist for the district, to offer some words of welcome on behalf of the agency.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Wonderly, as mentioned, Public Affairs Specialist for the Phoenix District Office of the Bureau of Land Management. I just wanted to welcome everybody to our meeting today. This is an opportunity to learn more about the proposed Resource Management Plan amendment for the Sonoran Desert National Monument and to learn about the plan, to provide your input. We have a team of BLM staffers standing by in the background who will help to answer questions that you may have. So do feel free to ask those as we go through the presentation. We will have a presentation as mentioned and questions and answer at the end. So again, I want to thank you all for joining us and I'll turn things over to Katie.
Good morning, everybody. As mentioned, my name is Katie White Bull. I am the Sonoran Desert National Monument Manager. And I'm going to run through a brief history of the planning process, and then we'll go through the current process. The Bureau of Land Management began land use planning for this area more than 10 years ago. And the original Resource Management Plan, or RMP, was signed in 2012. That decision was litigated in 2015. The court ordered the BLM to reanalyze the impacts of the recreational target shooting in the monument. BLM worked to complete that RMP amendment, and in 2018, a new decision was signed. That decision was challenged in 2019. Through negotiations, the BLM agreed to initiate this planning effort in April of 2022. Next slide, please. This is a just short, brief description of each of the alternatives. And I'll give you a moment to read, but then we'll go through and look at the maps, and I'll explain each of the alternatives as we walk through. Next slide, please. This map shows what we would call alternative A. This is the no action alternative. Under alternative A, the existing management and guidance per the 2018 approved RMP amendment would continue. On this map, the area shown in brown would be unavailable for recreational target shooting. That area is known to us as the Juan Bautista de Anza National Historic Trails Recreation Management Zone. The areas in the turquoise color or the blue would be available for target shooting recreationally. Next slide, please. This map depicts alternative B, which is the monument protection alternative. This alternative was developed to protect monument objects that are considered incompatible with recreational target shooting because they have low resilience to disturbance associated with that activity, which would support the BLM's requirement to meet monument object protection criteria. Other resources were retained as identified under alternative A, which is that Juan Bautista de Anza Recreation Management Zone. And the area on the map in brown would be unavailable, and the turquoise or blue colored would be available for recreational target shooting. Next slide, please. Alternative C is the settlement agreement alternative. This alternative was developed following the requirements of the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement is available on the e-planning website. The agreement identified specific areas to be analyzed as unavailable, as well as identified buffer distances for specific resources, such as the Kamaki Trail, and required the results of the suitability analysis to be incorporated. Other resource buffers were retained, as identified under alternative B. The area on the map in the brown would be unavailable to target shooting. The area that is green would also be unavailable to target shooting, and the turquoise colored areas would be available for recreational target shooting. Next slide, please. Under alternative D, the entire monument would be unavailable for recreational target shooting. Next slide. This table shows a breakdown of the areas that would be available and unavailable for recreational target shooting. The totals are depicted in both acreages and percentage. For alternative A, which is the existing management, 10% of the monument, or that Juan Bautista de Anza Recreation Management Zone, would be considered unavailable, and the remaining 90% would still remain available to recreational target shooting. Under alternative B, the monument object or the monument protection would be 69% of the monument closed or unavailable to recreational target shooting, and 31% would remain available for target shooting. Under alternative C, 99% of the monument would be unavailable for recreational target shooting, and 1% would remain open for target shooting or available. And under alternative D, the entire monument would be closed, so 0% would be available for recreational target shooting. And that is a brief description of all of the alternatives. Now I'd like to hand the presentation over to Chelsea McKinney, who is our project manager. Chelsea.
Thank you. As Katie said, I am the project manager for the Phoenix District. And since Katie has just reviewed all of the alternatives with you all, I will be going over how you can participate in the comment period. The comment period opened, and the BLM is looking to receive information from the public that will assist us in knowing what concerns or issues you may have with the subject being analyzed, help identify items or issues that we don't know about, and help us understand user conflicts. All the information assists us in providing the best EA possible and making sure we address any issues. When providing comments, please consider the following. Provide constructive solutions with documentation or resources to support your recommendations. Include any knowledge, experience, or evidence as it relates to your observations and comments. Provide GPS readings if possible when referring to specific locations. Avoid vague statements or concerns that these don't give the BLM something on which to act on. Multiple comments or topics with the same concern are going to be considered one comment. Please understand, comments are not votes for or against any of these alternatives. BLM must rely on supporting information, not the number of comments received. Avoid using form letters to convey your opinion. Your unique way of writing a comment helps the BLM understand your point of view. We also wanted to provide an example of a good comment. So when you submit these, you know what we're kind of looking for. So the example provided here is you've located, you know where a location of roosting bats is, and you know the point to share with us of where they are on a map. So we can consider them for closure for a monument object. That's a good comment, because again, it's telling us what your concern is, where the concern is, and how we should consider it into this EA. An example of a comment that is not so helpful is when you just say, I don't agree with closing the entire monument. This slide on the screen is to help provide you all with the time frame, the milestones, and the key components of the RMP amendment. The left side is providing you the time frame. The middle rectangle box are providing you the milestones, and the bigger boxes on the right are giving you key components of those milestones. The BLM is currently at the draft plan amendment and draft EA phase identified by the arrow. This milestone opened with the draft plan amendment being made available to the public for a 30-day comment period, which began on June 14th. The next steps will be to review the comments that are received during this period and submit a final EA in the late summer with a decision record signed in the winter of 2023. So now that we've given you tips and the time frame, we'll go over how to submit your comments. So again, the comment period has officially started. The BLM encourages the public to provide input on issues, planning criteria, alternatives, and impacts. This will help inform us and better assist the planning process. Comments or requests for additional information or to be added to the mailing list may be submitted via email, mail, or in person at the address listed on the page. For those wishing to submit comments via email, which is our preferred method, please send them to BLM_AZ_SDNM target shooting at BLM.gov. The second way to submit your comments is through the e-planning website. Once there, you will navigate to the project page and select Participate Now. The direct project page is https://eplanning.blm.gov/e-planning-UI/510. And Meg will put that address in the comments. The final way to submit comments is through the mail. Write a comment letter and deliver it in person or by mail to Sonoran Desert National Monument, Bureau of Land Management. Attention, RMPA EA 2020 East Bell Road, Phoenix, Arizona 85022. The public comment period closes July 1st, 2023. BLM will consider information received during this comment period to help identify any flaws or information missing from our alternatives for the EA. Comments, including names and addresses of respondents, will be available for public review. If you wish to withhold your name or address from the public review or from disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act or FOIA, you must state this prominently at the beginning of your written comments. Such requests will be honored to the extent allowed. Thank you all so much, and I will give the presentation back over to Meg.
Thank you, Chelsea. And yes, I did put all of this information in the chat as well. So I know you can't click on these links as you're seeing them on the screen, but if you click on the chat button there in Zoom, you should be seeing them and should be able to click on that e-planning website link, as well as copy and paste the email address or the mailing address so that you have that for future reference. And it'll remain there in the chat as well as when we move on to other slides. So looking forward to receiving comments via these methods. So with that, we are going to now turn to any questions that you might have for the BLM team. This is, again, just time for clarifying questions on the presentation you just heard. Hopeful that any answers you hear today might help you to provide more informed comments. We won't be taking comments during today's meeting. We do ask that those be submitted in writing, but encourage you to ask any questions you might have today by clicking on the Q&A button in Zoom. Should look like two little talk bubbles. And you'll see a box pop up where you can type your question, click send, and it'll come to the team here. And we will take those questions and respond either in writing there in the Q&A, which I'll read out to you, or live from the team. So I'm not seeing any open questions at the moment, but welcome you to please go ahead and submit questions by clicking on that Q&A button, and we'll get you some responses going. All right, not seeing any questions coming through at the moment, but I know we just threw a bunch of information at you, so I'm going to give it a minute for folks to think about what they might want to ask, if anything. All right, well, I know we have a relatively small group on today, but certainly welcome any of you to put forth questions if you have them. And we do have one question that we'll put to the team from Ron D. So hold on just a minute, Ron, while we get an answer for you there. Yeah, we have about 5 people signed in right now. Great, and I think it's Lakin J and Jim U. I see your questions, so we're working on responses here. We've got a whole little team crew working in the background on responding, so we'll get to those in just a moment. Thanks for your patience. And as I mentioned earlier, this recording will be posted following the meeting. So if you want to go back and look at anything afterward, you can. And it's also easy for me to jump back to any slides. If you want to just look at anything again, let us know in the Q&A. Okay, great. It looks like Katie has a response to one of our questions. Lakin J asked, should comments be addressing alternative C since that is the proposed alternative, or should we address all of the alternatives in comments?
So BLM would request that you address all alternatives as necessary for your specific comments or questions. And then if you need any follow-ups, please use that email address that's in the chat to ask any further questions of us.
Great, thank you. And then I see Jim had asked for confirmation of that the comment period closes July 21st, and yes, that is correct. Comments are due by the 21st of July. Okay. All right, let's see. It looks like Dale's going to respond to the next question. And that was from Ron D, who asked, have you received much input so far? So Dale, what's the response there?
Good morning, Dale Onweiss, Bureau of Land Management. To date, we received 8 letters submitted to the BLM, plus we received 2 comments downloaded to the e-planning website for this project.
Great, thank you. All right, I think that's all the questions we had to open for the moment. But certainly welcome any others. We do have time remaining in the meeting, so the team is going to be here standing by to address any other questions as they come up. Please go ahead and click on that Q&A button if you have any other questions. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in at the moment, but as I mentioned, we do still have some time in our meeting, and the team will be standing by. So if you think of a question in a few minutes, you're welcome to go ahead and share it. If you've gotten what you came for, thanks so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen in today and learn a bit more about what's going on with this process. And we hope you'll consider submitting a comment if you have some information to share with the BLM. So thank you so much. And we will be in the background, but we will be here if other questions come up until the close of the meeting at 1. All right, thanks everyone. We appreciate everyone's participation and attention in today's meeting. And just a reminder that the public comment period is open through July 21st, and comments can be submitted via email to the address on the screen or via the e-planning website also shown here, or by mail to the address shown below. We appreciate all the questions we received today and hope to hear from you on the second meeting later next week or via comment methods just mentioned. Thanks, everyone. We hope you have a good rest of your day. With that, we are adjourned.